So, the idea of kin'ah is an interesting idea that happens to fit itself with the parasha that we're coming to, but it also fits in with the idea of the Horban, right? Depending who you read and how you read, the Gemara, Masechet Gittin, certainly Josephus, the role of the Zealots in the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, according to many, opinions, certainly in rabbinic literature, as well as in Josephus. Josephus puts a heavy burden on the Zealots and their responsibility for the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So I'd like to talk for a little bit about this idea as it appears in Tanakh. And we'll start with the Parashah. We'll spend a short time on the Parashah. And then I want to shift into certain passages in Melachim, and specifically Eliyahu and Navi. And we'll spend some time on the passage where Eliyahu and Navi is told he will no longer be the Navi, but I want to focus mostly on the passage of the Se'ara, which is where Eliyahu and Navi ascends on high. Okay? First, I want to just mention that very often you'll hear this in, typical classes. The idea goes like this, and this is a somewhat superficial way of looking at it, and we're going to challenge this. But the idea goes like this, the Torah doesn't like zealousness, doesn't like zealotry, right? So while Pinehas takes his famous act of zeal, and he kills the Nisi Shevet Yisrael, and he takes the law into his own hands. So you see really that Pinehas right away is now, while he's given Biriti Shalom, and we'll talk about that in a minute, you see what happens to Pinehas. What happens? Right away, he's sort of passed off for the job, and Yoshua is immediately chosen because we don't want Kanaim running the show, right? And in fact, there's an interesting passage based on a Zohar that says, Hineni noten lo et birishti shalom, right? What does that mean? Tahat asher kidei lohav. Tahat doesn't mean in reward of, but instead of. Meaning, tahat, right? They explain that I'm going to give him biriti shalom, which is brit kehuna, instead of to replace the idea of zeal, which has been characteristic of Shevet Levi in the desert, right? Rather, we're going to give him Biriti Shalom. And so we will replace that. And then this idea is further brought down as in terms of the replacement of Elisha, right? Elisha replacing Eliyahu, right? Eliyahu is clearly Kano Kineti LaHashem. And right away, God says, you know what? I'm done with the kin'ah. This doesn't work. If you are Mekaneh LaHashem, I have another guy. We want a much more relaxed guy, and that is Elisha. He's going to do things differently, right? The trick with that approach, and I'm not so sure, while it does have some merits, and we'll analyze it, the trick with that approach is, I don't know if it bears itself out within the Pshat of the Psukim on a few levels. One, clearly the Torah is very positive about the actions of Pinehas, at least within the Pshat level, but certainly also when we get to Eliyahu and Elisha, Elisha's first couple of actions don't show him as this more relaxed, matun person, calmer leader than Eliyahu was. I mean, almost immediately, Elisha starts killing people, right? In other words, he's like getting, people insult him, aleh kareah, which we'll have to talk about this incident, and he responds by calling out 2 bears and to kill them. So if we're talking about a person who's supposed to be the more relaxed version, the alternate to Eliyahu, we got a little bit of a problem. Now, I do believe that there is a difference between the models of Elisha and Eliyahu, and we'll have to talk about what that model is. And I think within the text, we'll see a clear difference within the model that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is replacing. But I think we need to look at that. Now, Eliyahu and Navi, the very famous passage in Melachim Aleph, in Perek Yud Zayin, right? I'm sorry, not Perek Yud Zayin. I wanted Perek Yud Tet, right? Perek Yud Tet is where Eliyahu and Navi is told by God that he no longer has a job. And God asks him a few times after this vision, Ma lecha for Eliyahu? Vayomer, Kano kineti ladonai, I have the zeal for God. Ki azvu beritecha b'nei Israel, et mizbechotecha haratzu, ve'et neviecha haregu beharev. Va'ivater ani levadi, I am alone. Vayivakshu et nafshi lekachta. Okay, so I am left alone, and they want to kill me. Meaning I'm the last one of them. Now, this concept of Eliyahu and Navi saying he's left alone and wanting to be alone and running away is going to be a key element in for us understanding what is happening here with Eliyahu and Navi in his final time as Navi.
Is he really alone, or because we have the people, the Nevi'im that are hidden by...
We're going to talk about, those, certainly, but those would not be, but even more so. You have what's called a whole group. First of all, you have Elisha eventually, but you also have a whole group of Bnei Nevi'im, which are Davka Eliyahu students who are there. So maybe he's the only official Navi opposing Ahav's reign. Maybe not. But we do know that there are Bnei Nevi'im. And we will also see that Eliyahu Navi does not want to spend time with them. Right? And we're going to try and figure out what this means about Eliyahu and Navi. So, but this is the point where God says, Lech shuv ledarkecha midbar damesech, and I want you to do 3 things. Umashahtat Hazael lemelech al Aram. I want you to crown Hazael. I want you to crown Yehu. And I want you to appoint Elisha the Navi Tahtecha as your replacement Navi. And God says a very strange thing. V'haya hanimlat meherev Hazael. The person who will escape the sword of Hazael, Yamit Yehu. Yehu will kill. V'hanimlat meherev Yehu, Yamit Elisha. And the one who will escape the sword of Yehu will be killed by Elisha. Now that's exactly the opposite of what you would think. Right? The enemy king, the king of Aram, is going to kill the least. The Jewish king will kill more. And the prophet will kill more than all 3. It's backwards of what we would think. And so, the leftover, okay, not necessarily more, but whoever escapes. Now, if you would assume the appropriate order of activity, what should Eliyahu be doing first? He should go to Aram and crown, and he is in Aram at this moment, he should crown Hazael as king. And then he should crown Yehu, and then he should appoint Elisha as Navi. But he, again, takes the reverse order. The first thing he does is do what? Vayelech misham. Pasuk Yutet. Vayimsa et Elisha ben Shaphat. He finds Elisha ben Shaphat. This is the guy, David Tachtecha. And what is he doing? Well, he's plowing. Now, this is his successor. He's sort of plowing things. That's going to be important. And he throws his cloak down, which is a sign for Elisha to come and be his successor. And what does Elisha do? Well, if you were Eliyahu, what would you expect to happen? I'll tell you, if you're Eliyahu, what you expect to happen, if you know Eliyahu, expect him, okay, I'm leaving everything, and I'm running after you, and let's go join God. And what does Elisha do? Okay, Eliyahu, I respect. I just have to ask my parents for permission, and I have to go feed them, and I have to give them a drink, and then I'll come. And Eliyahu goes, forget about it. I didn't do anything. Forget about it. But no, Elisha doesn't do that. He does exactly his plan. He feeds his parents. He does what he needs to do, and then he follows Eliyahu. How many more times do we see them together in Tanakh? Anyone have any idea? The answer is, well, obviously the answer is going to be, the obvious answer is 0. There is only one more time. And that is when? When they die. When Eliyahu leaves. We'll never see Eliyahu and Elisha converse again. Which is peculiar. Because this is his guy. We'll never see them talk again. We'll see Eliyahu operating and doing his thing. We will only see them as a pair on the day of Eliyahu's departure. And that's the chapter we're really going to have to take a look at. So now I want to back up for a minute and say, what's happening here? I want to set the and what is going on? Why is God telling Eliyahu that it's time for you to stop? And is it simply because he's overzealous for his job? Well, maybe partially. But what it seems to happen is, what is Eliyahu trying to accomplish? Why is Eliyahu upset? What is the context of Eliyahu running away? So, Eliyahu's context is 2 incidents happened before. One incident is the famous story at Eliyahu and Har Carmel. Eliyahu at Carmel tries to decide he's going to do battle with the Nevi'ei Haba, right? And he succeeds, right? He brings the fire down, the Nevi'ei Haba fail, and he has them all killed, right? And everyone follows him. And they follow God. And eventually he relents, he brings down the rain. Eliyahu has decreed no rain. God has listened to that decree. And now he relents, he brings the rain down. It seems he's victorious. But for Eliyahu, it's not enough. Because Eliyahu sees himself as an absolute failure. Because by the very next chapter, Izebel, the queen, is after him again. And she's able to put him in danger. So therefore, what hasn't happened? Why would he view himself as a failure? He's convinced the Jewish people that God is God, right? But he hasn't removed Izebel from the Meluchah. He hasn't destroyed the house of Ahav. It's clearly Eliyahu's goal to destroy the house of Ahav. And in that context, we can go and say, God says, listen to me. I got it. It's an important goal. But it has to happen at the right time. The time is not right now. And you can't seem to understand that. It's not so much the overzealousness, but I would call it's the impatience. It has to happen now. And that is what God said. If you're dealing with the house of Ahav, we will get rid of them. through Hazael, through Yehu, and ultimately through Elisha, who will actually appoint Yehu. And therefore, it is not surprising that all Eliyahu does is appoint Elisha. Eliyahu does not appoint Yehu. It will be Elisha who will appoint Yehu. Because, and here is what God is requesting. Your goals, the destruction of the house of Ahav, is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is committed to. The zealousness is not something that's misplaced. It's just the timing that's inappropriate. Elisha will understand that. Elisha, at the time, will interact his entire career with the house of Ahav. He will go back and forth and have relationships with the house of Ahav. He will talk to kings. Kings will call him my master, my father. That never happens with Eliyahu. Eventually, he will destroy the entire house of Ahav and obliterate it. Right? When Ahav deals with a king, he either curses him or has him killed on the spot through a fire. That's when Eliyahu deals with him. Elisha has the patience and he understands it. And we're going to see those texts, and we're actually going to see really what this difference, how the text places Eliyahu versus Elisha. And part of that is going to be seen by looking at the chapter in which Eliyahu leaves this world. And he goes, and that is the chapter of the Se'ara. Okay? So, that's the beginning of Melachim Bet. Now, okay. Melachim Bet, Perek Bet. And Vayhi ba'alot Adonai et Eliyahu b'se'ara shamayim vayelech Eliyahu v'Elisha min ha'Gilgal. Now, the story begins in Gilgal. I want to just put a little bit of a. We begin in Gilgal. We're going to move, and it's a very interesting movement. We go from Gilgal to Beit El, to Yericho, and then we cross the Yarden. Does that sound familiar to anybody? In reverse order, right? In other words, where does Eliyahu die most probably if he just crosses the Yarden? Can we take a guess? Arvot Moab? Maybe? What? Where Moshe died. And what do we know about Eliyahu's burial place? Nothing, right? We don't know where it is. The text is clear. And where do we know about Moshe's burial place? Absolutely nothing, right? The text is very clear on both of them that we don't know where they're buried, right? So that's very important, and it's a reverse journey. Just hold that in the back of your mind. We will get back to that point, but it's a reverse journey of Yeshua's journey. The first place that after crossing the Yarden, Yeshua stops at is Yericho, right? So, and we're going to go backwards. We're going from Gilgal to Bethel to Yericho to Yarden, crossing the Yarden and dying or going up to Shamayim, not really dying or whatever it is, to leave Elisha. Now, I mentioned to you that there is this clear difference from the very beginning between Eliyahu and Elisha. We see them in there as Eliyahu's appointing Elisha. So now what happens? So if you were Elisha and you had this boss who did things differently and you wanted to do it your way, right? You wanted to do it your way. You didn't like the way things were done. But he's your boss. He's Eliyahu. You can't challenge Eliyahu. So what would you do? You would. Now when you find out the news that he's going, okay, now it's your time. Now it's your turn to change. If you wanted a new way of doing things. And that's exactly what Elisha's contemporaries think. In other words, the idea of what I told you before, the Kanai versus the non-Kanai, right? Which I don't think is really what the text is bearing out. That's very well how people around Eliyahu and Elisha saw the two of them. And it might even be the way Eliyahu himself saw the two of them. But let's see what happens. So the Bnei Nevi'im come and they say, guess what, Elisha? We got news for you. As if Elisha didn't know. Hayom Hashem lokeach adonecha me'al roshcha. That's a very funny way of saying it. What does it sound like? Taking away your adon from over your head. Meaning what? I'm going to see, the pshat of that pasuk seems to say, I'm going to free you. I'm going to free you up. I'm getting him off of your head. Right now, you're going to be able to interact and do what you wish. And so, Hayom Hashem lokeh adonecha me'al roshecha. Vayomer gam ani yadati heheshu. Keep quiet, right? Okay. Now, Eliyahu knows it's time for him to go. So what does Eliyahu say? Shiv napo. You say, ki adem shelahani yardena. So what does Eliyahu want to do? He wants to be alone. Right? He wants to be by himself at this point. He doesn't want Elisha with him. Why? Because Eliyahu looks at it and says, my job's done. I've done what I've done. It's time for a new guy to take over and do it his way. So, see you later. We're going to sever all contact. Elisha, again, refuses. So, twice he's refusing people. He's refusing to admit the Bnei Nevi'im. He says, Yadati heheshu, keep quiet. And when Eliyahu says, stay here, he refuses. And he gives a swear, right? He says, I'm not going to do it. I am not going to leave you. I will assert that I am not going to leave you means I am not going to leave you even after you die. I am going to fulfill something about your legacy that you don't know about me. And there's something I'm going to do to fulfill your legacy. And again, Hamishim ish b'nei nevi'im halchu v'yamdu mineged rachok u'shneim aldu al Yarden. Have 50. And then he splits the sea. He splits the Yarden. Literally reversing and going to the other way. Literally reversing Moshe's journey. That's going to be important. This reversal of Moshe's journey is going to be an important message because just as Moshe, quote unquote, died and had to leave his job, quote unquote, unfinished and have somebody else take it over, Eliyahu himself views himself that way. I'm going back. I'm going to die when Moshe died. I'm leaving Eretz Israel, and I'm going to literally leave it for somebody else to do. Right? And Eliyahu, Vayhi ke'ovram ve'Eliyahu amar Elisha. This is a very famous verse. Sha'al ma'aselach b'terem elekach mi'imach. Okay, I got it. What do you want? Right? What do you want from me before I go? Now, if we have a Melachim, a bit with commentaries, a Mikra'ot Kedolot, would be helpful. This is a very, very famous passage. What do you want? And Elisha asks, I'll tell you what I want. I want pishnayim biruchacha. Now, this is difficult, and we're going to analyze some of the mefashim on this point. But before I do it, I want to go back for a minute. We see this motif in the Se'ara. Eliyahu wants to be alone. We have 50 Nevi'im, and he's not able to be alone. He's followed. When else, and the motif of fire. In the previous chapter, the last thing that Eliyahu does is sit on a mountain. And the king wants him. And he sends these groups of people. And each time he sends the groups of people, what does he do? What does Eliyahu do? Now, he sends how many people? 50. Again, 50. He says 50 people. And they want to bother him. And each time, Eliyahu wants to stay alone. And what does he do? He brings a fire down from the Shamayim and he burns them. Each time. And the third time, doesn't do that. And the king Ahaziah, the king from the house of Ahaz, Ahab, dies. And that's somewhat parallel here to the 50, right? The 50 Nevi'im, the Bnei Nevi'im that he tries to get rid of, and eventually it winds up, he himself goes up in a fire to Shammai. Now, so, if we go back to this idea, what is Elisha, what does he want? Right? We already know that he wants to prove to Eliyahu that he wants to be his heir. And by the way, what does it say? Vayelchu shnehem yahdav. Right? He tries to get rid of him, but he can't. And the text goes Vayelchu shnehem yahdav, indicating some uniqueness or togetherness of purpose. By the way, where else do we see that? Everyone knows this. Vayelchu shnehem yahdav. Okay, Yitzhak. And what did Hazal say at that point? That was the point where Yitzhak found out, and they were belev echad, right? Together in one purpose. So in other words, this idea of being unique and together in one purpose of Vayelchu shnehem yahdav. And so that's what happens. So now Eliyahu asks Elisha, okay, what do you want? Right? What do you want? And so he answers in that very famous request, Pi shinayim beruchacha. I want double of your ruach. Right? The standard pirush, which is brought down, is, what is he asking for? He's asking for double the ruach hakodesh. The Mitzudot bring it down. The Rashi brings it down. He wants double the ruach hakodesh that Eliyahu had. Now, the obvious question is, really two questions. Abad Banel's question is, well, it's not up to Eliyahu to give ruach hakodesh to anybody. And second, even if it was, I can only give what I have. I can't give double of what I have by definition because I don't have it, right? Even if I theoretically could give it. So this becomes very difficult. Hazal say, I want to do double the nisim that you do. You did Tehiyat HaMetim once. I want to do Tehiyat HaMetim twice. Again, it's a similar difficult question. Rabbi has an interesting approach. Vahina pi shinayim berucha elai rotzeh lomar b'ma shetzaltem al kol bnei hanevim yen yetzal li ruach pi shinayim al kol echad. I don't want double of what you have. I want to be like a bechor. I want to have a double portion. In other words, if there's 50 bnei nevi'im, I'm the 51st, split into 52 parts, I get 2. And the others will get 50. In other words, I get 2 50 seconds, and the others get each one 1 52nd. Right? So that'll be like a regular Navi. Now the Rabbi chooses an interesting pasuk. And I want to focus on this for a minute. I don't know if the Rabbi meant it, but I want to focus on this. He brings a pasuk. He could just say, bring the pasuk of any bechor. But he says, Ki et ha-bechor ben ha-sinuah yakir lo latet lo pi shinayim. He compares Elisha to a ben ha-sinuah, the hated child who gets a double portion. The bechor gets a double portion. Why? Because he's forced. The father has no choice as to who will be the bechor. The Torah mandates this. Did Eliyahu choose Elisha? He didn't choose Elisha. Eliyahu was forced to appoint Elisha as the Nevi. Right? Elisha senses that maybe Eliyahu wasn't happy about this appointment. He wasn't so enthusiastic from the beginning. There are different approaches, but he does it. What Elisha might be trying to accomplish is, I want to be your bechor. And I want you to understand that I want that job, and I want you to want that job. Literally, the Rabbah compares it to a ben asnua. Radak has a interesting also approach. Ve'adoni avizal peresh pishnayim. My father said pishnayim. Shnei halakim. Sha'al shielo meruach Eliyahu. 2/3. In other words, if you put it into 3, I want 2/3. It comes out the same as the Ralbag, the Radak's father, but it just the idea of how Pishnayim gets there is a little bit different. Shnei halkei nechasav, ki abechor, he says, notel shnei halakim min nechasim, v'apashut notel halik shlishi. So Pishnayim means 2/3, because the bechor gets 2 and the pashut gets the 3rd. So we have this approach, and I want you to keep that bechor approach in the back of our minds because it's very important. But I want to give one more approach and build on that. And that's the approach of the Malbim. The Malbim, which I don't have here, the Malbim says something interesting. The Malbim says, you know what I want? Pishnayim. I want your approach and mine. I want your derech and my derech. And I want to merge the two. And I want to have your derech of nevuah along with my derech. And those two I'm going to merge together. Pishenayim beruchacha. Now what is Eliyahu gives him a funny answer. And he says, okay, you got it on one condition. This is a very difficult thing. Now, if the Malbim is right, we really understand why it's Iksheta Lishol. Right? Because Eliyahu is still of the opinion that these things can't merge. There's no way. We're diametrically opposed. The Bnei Nevi'im feel they're diametrically opposed. The only one who doesn't think that they're diametrically opposed is whom? Is Elisha himself. And which is why I will assert this chapter is really not so much about Eliyahu as it is about Elisha. Elisha seems to be the central pivotal person here. He is the one who gets it all right. He's the one who wins out at the end. Right? So, you have to see me taken from you. What does that mean? So, if we follow and assume this nevuah, and we allow ourselves a little of Harlem Bomb type approach, we'll say that he has to be able to understand the meaning of the vision that he's going to see. He has to be able to internalize and understand what is really happening when the Navi is taken away, or from him. When Eliyahu is taken away, if he can understand and internalize that message, then he can accomplish it. How is Eliyahu taken away? He's taken away in a se'ara, right? So let's read that chapter for a minute. Vayem alchim haloch v'daber v'hinei rechev esh, a chariot of fire, v'susei esh, horses of fire, vayafridu ben shnehem, vayal Eliyahu b'sarah shamayim. Why a chariot of fire? Why? Let's think. Elisha reacts, Avi, Avi, Rechev Yisraelu Parashav. Now, he reacts to this by calling Eliyahu Rechev Yisrael Uparashav. Why? What is a Rechev Yisrael? What is the point of this Rechev Yisrael? So first, Avi, Avi. Avi, Avi means my father, my father. What do the Bnei Nevi'im call Eliyahu? Right? Adonecha. Or they call him with the title Rav, meaning the master. Eliyahu is not an easy person to serve. And it is difficult. He is a master. It's almost burdensome to be a disciple of Eliyahu. But at this point, Elisha views him, in the more affectionate term, Avi, Avi. If we go back to the Bechor and the son and the father, we come back to it. Avi, Avi, Rechev Yisrael. So this idea of Rechev Yisrael is crucial to understanding what is happening here. So Targum Yonatan explains what is Rechev Yisrael and what does that mean, the idea that Elisha is calling him Rechev Yisrael. right? So Targum Yonatan says that Titav lehon liYisrael b'tzloter mertichin u'parashin. The one, we'll call it, I'm going to loosely translate, not exactly the way Targum Yonatan does, but I'm going to call the protector of Israel. The greater, he says through his prayers, the protector of Israel that protected him more than chariots and susim. So that's very funny, because we never once see in his entire career Eliyahu Navi acting as an open protector of the Jewish people. Certainly not in battle, right? Who, the opposite, right? The exact opposite. Who does protect the Jewish people in battle? Elisha, more than once, right? Right? The case of where the Malachim, and he opens his eyes, there are more of us than them, right? Don't worry. Right, in the Minavish. So Elisha does. But not Eliyahu. So this Targum Yonatan, this is very funny. The protector of Israel. But in a sense, somehow, Elisha has internalized something that no one else gets. Meaning, what Eliyahu said is, if you see me going, if you understand, I've been a mystery to the Jewish people. No one really got me. Everyone thought I was this firebrand. Everyone thought I was this guy who was out to destroy and this Baal Kinah. If you get it, if you understand the message, when you see me taken from you, if you understand that message, you will be able to do even what I could not do. You will be able to synthesize who I was with what you want to be, and I'll add even more, you'll be able to explain who I am. You'll be able to actually, not by saying anything, but by living it out, right? If on one hand, Eliyahu becomes the mashal, the enigmatic mashal that cannot be understood, you, Elisha, will live a life as my nimshal. You will explain my goals. You will be able to actually see my goals carried out. And that's the trick. And of course, what happens is, Elisha says the words, Rechev Yisrael. Yes, Eliyahu was a protector of Am Yisrael. Now, the death and the burial is important. Because if we go back to the Moshe analogy, right? Moshe Rabbeinu appoints a successor, Yehoshua, who actually will do what? Who will actually carry on his mission. If Eliyahu dies and is buried, he's finished. He's done. Moshe is not buried for many reasons. Of course, we know that we don't want to make his place of death a shrine and maybe a god. But it's not only that. If Moshe would die, it means it's over. If Moshe doesn't die, quote unquote, he is still with us through Yehoshua. Moshe Rabbeinu's mission, which is aborted in the middle, is completed through his successor as Yehoshua. By Eliyahu having that exact same non-death experience, not being dead, he still becomes with us. And by the way, hence the folklore of Eliyahu and Navi is the one who's still with us all the time. And ironically, what does the folklore always say? He's the one who takes care of us. He's the Rahman par excellence. He's the one who you meet in the shuk, and even the Gemarot are filled with this, who you meet in the shuk, and he takes care of the Jewish people. He's the one who in Echad Abati wakes up Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov to pray before the Churban. He is the one who sees the Ani and who gives them the thing and gets the money. He's the guy who's taking care of the Jewish people, right? In the folklore. Right. Eliyahu, right. Eliyahu Navi is going to come to bring Mashiach. right? All of these things, it doesn't seem to fit with how he lived at all, right? Ocher Eliyahu calls it, right? So I want to say that actually this is what really Elisha is now explaining to everybody, including to the Bnei Nevi'im. Bnei Nevi'im think that, Eliyahu is going to be buried. And Elisha understands right away he won't be buried. That's part of the understanding that Elisha understood the vision. Because part of the vision is that there won't be a burial place. Why? Because his mission is not over. The Bnei Nevi'im assume Eliyahu's finished, we have a new leader, and the first thing they do is what? Bow to Elisha. And then the next thing they want to do is what? Look for the body. Because they assume that this is over. Elisha understands right away that it's not over. And what does Elisha do when he actually, of course, rips his clothing as a mourning sign? But what does he do when he's first seen? What is the first thing he does? He takes the aderet of Eliyahu and he goes back and splits the water the way Eliyahu did with his aderet to go back across. That means what? That means I'm using the aderet of Eliyahu and I'm doing the miracle and I'm retracing his steps and I am going to continue to perform in his way. Now, the Bnei Nevi'im, they say, Nara haru Eliyahu Elisha, they bow to him and they want to bury him. Elisha tries to explain, no, there's no burying here. It's not going to happen. There's nothing to be buried. You're not going to find him. And they don't listen. They try and look, but it doesn't work. We know why it's not going to work, because Eliyahu and Evi lo met. He's not dead. He is going to live inside of Elisha. Now Elisha will eventually accomplish all that Eliyahu wants to accomplish. It will just take a lot of time. He will have seen the destruction of the house of Ahaz, that corrupt destruction of the house of Ahaz, and in his time, Izebel will be killed, and the Nevi continues to say, as Eliyahu and Nevi prophesied would happen. Exactly where? By Kerem Navot Israeli. That's where Izebel's body is tossed down. Everything that Elisha does becomes this connection back to Eliyahu. Elisha will be the protector of Israel. Elisha will do miracles to protect Israel. He will interact with kings and he will be a protector. And in a sense, all that comes from Eliyahu. The major distinction and the major difference is not in their midah, but in the timing, in the ability to wait till things are correct. Time could not be correct. And by the way, why wouldn't time be correct? We could think of 100 different reasons why time will not be correct. We could think of the simple, logical reason why it would be correct. Izebel is a Phoenician queen. At that point, Am Yisrael may just have needed the alliances that they had, and to rid themselves of Izebel at that point might have been premature. Things just might not have been ready. I don't know if this was the reason or there was another host of reasons, but it's clearly the point that Hashem will accomplish Eliyahu's goals, but he will accomplish it in his time, not in our time. God will accomplish it in God's timing schedule, and it will take Elisha to be able to understand that and to wait before it can be done. Now, Elisha, on the way back, he has two more incidents that happen in Yericho. One of the things he does is he cures the water, right? He actually, there's water that is undrinkable, and Elisha cures the water, right? He makes the water sweet and palpable for the people, right? What is that a metaphor for? Elisha is different from Eliyahu in one way in his approach. Elisha will be the person who plows. He is the person who asks his father, what can I become, and can I serve you? I must leave. I need to take permission. We don't know anything about Eliyahu and his family. We don't know anything about Eliyahu and plowing or interacting with people. So by Elisha curing the water, he is enabling himself to interact with the people. But on the other hand, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the very next thing he does is what? Ale kareach, bring out the bear to kill those boys. Now, why? Why would that be the next thing? Just in case you think, right, that I'm the pushover, right? Just in case you think that I don't mean business, and that the Navi could be ridiculed, and that the Navi, and now we're going to see a weakened state of Nevuah and a weakened state of Navi, you're wrong. In fact, I did see an interesting perush, that these young boys that said Ale Kareah, they're angry at Elisha. Why are they angry at Elisha? Because they feel that he is not true to the Torah of Eliyahu, right? They want that same Eliyahu. Sweetening the water is something they don't want. And the Midrash also links the sweetening of the water to what their complaints was. Because some of them, they were water drawers, and now they're out of business because the water is sweetened. Right? So the idea of the sweetening of the water is somehow enabling them to complain. Meaning, oh, you're an easy guy. You're a pushover. And because you're not like Eliyahu, we want Eliyahu back. And Elisha demonstrates very clearly, no, we're not going to do that. Don't think that the Navi and the position of the Navi will be lessened, and I am going to be a total different approach of Nevuah than Eliyahu was. No, that you would be mistaken. I will demonstrate to you that that's not the case, right? I am following course with the position of Eliyahu, but I will do it in a very different way, a way that's more palpable towards the people in its timing, right? I will be able to do and bring into account what Eliyahu's goals were. So I think that we don't see what is very often said, and sometimes Divrei Torah, things like that Elisha is the counter to Eliyahu, that he is a different approach, that he is, that Kinah is out and we have to replace that. I think what we do see is that very clearly from the Mefarshim and on this text of the Se'ara, that Elisha was following into Eliyahu's footsteps, but he's doing it in a way that becomes more palpable to God's mission in the way it should happen, in its timing and his interaction with the people. What Eliyahu was not understood, Eliyahu might have been misunderstood, that was Elisha will clarify. Elisha will clarify that Eliyahu really was a Rechev Yisrael, that Eliyahu was really looking out for the people. His harshness was because he understood that the house of Ahab must go, that it is bringing Am Yisrael down, and that he will act as a protector for the Jewish people. But the people didn't see that, because the people suffered. They suffered through famine. They suffered through no rain. They were in pain. And so therefore they couldn't see that. So Elisha, instead of not bringing the water down, instead of forcing no water, will cure the water. He'll enable people to drink. But he will be at that same point very clear in that it is the job of the Navi to actually punish those who need to be punished. And actually, sometimes harshly, in order to save the Jewish people, rid the Jewish people of those that are causing damage and harm. So Elisha will bring that message into fruition. And so the message of Kinah is a valid message, but it's a message that has a certain way of explaining and a certain timeliness that needs to be brought down to people. Thank you, and Zachu Baruch.